I call to order the Board of Trustees special meeting for April 6, 2023, and the time is 4 o'clock. Roll call, please. You want to do roll call?
Okay, you want me to do it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Mr.
Here.
Evans?
Yeah, here.
Continue to say Evans.
Here.
Sorry, Mr. Johnson?
Here.
And Julie Berrien is not present. Okay.
I move to set a limit of not more than one speech of 3 minutes length on the same question on the same day of each trustee. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, again, I don't know why we have to repeatedly go over this rule. It's just as easy to make it a permanent change to Robert's rules so that we don't have to waste the board and the residents' time over such matter. And then again, this rule is repeatedly violated as the other trustees do not stick to the one speech. They have multiple speeches. So if we're gonna have a rule not followed, why do we have the rule? So I'd actually move to remove the one speech limit, leaving in the 3 minute limit for the same question on the same day for each trustee.
To die for lack of second.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to adopt this as a permanent rule so that, again, we do not have to waste the board's and the residents' time going over this motion repetitively, because that can be done. And for the efficiency of matters, even though I disagree with this wholeheartedly, it's not conductive to the board's business, but if this board is determined to put this on every agenda item, just make it permanent so we don't have to go through this debacle each time.
Motion denied for lack of a second.
So you don't want to make it permanent, but you want to bring it up at every meeting.
Roll call?
That makes no sense.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Johnson?
None.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, although we cannot change this, again, the requested agenda items I've asked for are not being included. I don't know why. I would hope we have a change with that pretty soon. But the business of this, the township needs to be addressed, and the only way to do that properly is with this discussion and communication. So I hope that changes.
Roll call, Mrs. Nita.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move over into old business. Do you want to start the process for the hiring?
I can. Yeah, I got this. Okay. I'll move motion to hire Roy Wingert for position of road crew worker at $24 an hour at the start date of, I think you start 2 weeks from,
I guess they have to do a 2-week notice to their other employer, so.
yeah, how would I put that? Upon completion of a 2-week notice to his employer, or would it be a date?
I think you
Or-
could probably put whatever.
Or proposed date of, I'll put a
Right.
proposed date.
Okay.
Proposed date of,
Proposed start date? Okay.
what day is it?
So 2 weeks from Monday, maybe? The 10th, the 24th?
That's exactly what, 2 weeks from.
24th? Okay.
April 24th? Okay.
April 24th. After passing a background check, driver's abstract, and a drug test.
Is there a second? Is there a second? I'll second it.
Okay.
For discussion, are we?
Discussion, Mr. Evans?
Yes, are we dealing with all, or are we just hiring one? I think we should have a discussion before we just start proposing. And then also, has Mr. Wengert been contacted about this? Because you're offering $24 an hour, where the discussion with him was quite different. Has he been talked to, and is that okay with him and the other conditions of the union? Is my question, but I think we need to discuss if we're going to hire 3 people, 2 people, before we start hiring, to figure out what we're doing here. So that would be my concern. I contacted one of the individuals, and no one had contacted him after our interview. So I'm also wondering, have any of the other individuals been contacted and discussed with, because everyone's request for wages was higher than the $24. So I would like to know, Mr. Johnson or Ms. Hanson, have they been contacted and the proposed wage discussed with them?
I noticed you mentioned, why are we doing one at a time? Because that's the reason why we want to discuss each individual. And that's why we have the move to hire Roy right now. We're discussing him right now as we speak. So that's why we're doing each individual applicant at one at a time. So I think that's appropriate to do it that way.
Well, I think you first have to figure out how many and what we're doing, and then you decide what you're moving forward, because we didn't know that before. There was.
So you don't want to hire him?
No, what I'm saying is, the proper thing is, what are we filling it with, just 2, or are we going with 3 as
Don't know.
is a possibility? So I would
That
think
would be
that's
a
where
vote.
that's where you would start, and then you go there. Then I did have the question of, has anybody talked to these individuals about the lower starting rate? Because that's not what they were asking. On the resume was quite a bit more.
And just before the meeting started, I overheard you call it applicant Tatum.
I just mentioned that, yes.
Okay. And not sure what your conversation was, but is there a reason why you just decided to call him?
Try to find out information, because again, I have asked, and right now we're violating that one-time thing, so why do we have that rule? But my question is, have these individuals been contacted and discussed the starting rate? Because at the time of interview, contrary to what was asserted by some, it was not approved by the board. But now that rate is $24, and it's less than what they were asking. So it's a simple question and a courtesy to the individuals, if you're going to offer them the position, that they know what that starting salary is. So again, Mr. Johnson, Ms. Hanson, have they been talked to, and do they know the $24?
They will know it's tonight after we make an offer to them.
They-
Generally, you don't discuss money till an offer has been made with somebody.
Well, that's just what I was gonna say. I guess I don't really understand. I have not contacted anyone, but it doesn't seem to be necessary to contact anyone until there's actually been a board decision to extend an offer. So in my mind, once an offer has been approved to be extended, then we call any of the individuals and say, hey, the township has voted to extend you an offer for this amount of money. I mean, any applicant might then say, thank you, I'm not interested.
Well,
So
I think this is a different situation, because there's no wiggle room or no adjustment in that starting salary. So if it's 24 and you know that beforehand, you find out if they're still interested, and then if they're not, you go down to the other applicants in the pool, because we need to support our road department. And if now we're going to take more time, if all 4 say no at the 24, that's just leaving our road department at 60% efficiency, at capacity. So my thing is, it should have, because it's not like we used to be able to say, well, you've got more experience, here's 26. So it has to be 24. And as I said, I spoke to the one, and he may accept it if he's offered, but he's got to think about it. So I would think it would have been done with all of these, and I think voting to hire them, don't we want to vote to offer employment?
Well, first of all, we do support our road crew. That's why we're here. And we spent time to interview individuals, so we do support the road crew.
But there was no
Now,
follow-up.
excuse me, Mr. Evans, I'm still speaking. We want to hire and we want to support, and as we go through this meeting, we are planning to vote to hire 3 individuals. So I would just ask again that you vote and go from there, not just try to make it seems as if we're not interested. I mean, we have to vote to see about hiring these individuals. Once we do that, we can extend the offer to them. But it's up to us as a board to vote for those individuals.
But even with what you're saying, this is my concern. While I agree we need 3, you just said we're going to hire 3. We got to stop these decisions outside public meetings.
We are going to, we said it.
You just said.
No,
you're
Mr.
gonna
Evans,
vote
I'm not
for
going to
3.
go into
That's what
our executive session.
That's
I'm not
what-
going to go there with you.
Nothing can
But
be
those were
determined back.
discussions and I don't want to go into discussion about our executive session. But that is something that,
No decisions can be made in executive. So that's why I say.
Mr. Evans,
Why can't
you
we
guys,
talk, are we gonna hire 2 or 3 officially?
You know what?
Why does this have to be contentious?
that's you. That's what you do. That's what you do. We're not here to be contentious. We're here to make a decision if we're going to hire individuals and move on. You're making it contentious. So let's.
Well, I think the proper thing would be, I
we'll move
would
on.
move to table that motion so we could discuss how many and approve how many we wanna hire properly.
Due to lack of a second, it will not be tabled. So we'll move on to do a roll call to hire Roy Wingard. Roll call, Mrs. Nita?
Ms. McKee,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes,
Miss-
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
and Mrs. McKee, that's Ms. Hanson. Just for proper respect.
You know what? You need to
I did
just-
not feel offended, Mr.
Okay, well, I'm
Evans. Thank
just-
you so much. I did not feel
It just, well, it just is, Evans, just trying to keep it
Appreciate
proper.
that.
I move to hire Robert Adkins for position of road crew worker at $24 an hour with a start date of 4/24/23. Upon passing a background check, driver's license, driver's abstract, I guess, not license, and drug test.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Discussion, Mr. Johnson?
No.
He made the motion, he's not supposed to.
No.
I do have discussion again on this. The individual apparently was not contacted. Even the start dates, you don't know if that's a good start date. So if we're, as a board, saying that's going to be the start date, we'll need action to change that. I think these motions should be crafted better so that it's actually just an offer and for a start date of that or sooner, if possible. Again, we've got to follow the rules and law, and we're constraining ourselves doing it the way we're doing it. And again, we don't even know if he's going to accept this because his requirement was much higher. And again, I'm disappointed that the information was not provided to them in a follow-up to that interview. And it's just going to delay, I think, the process even longer.
Madam President, may I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson, was your motion to hire Mr. Adkins with a proposed start date of April 24?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I thought that's what I had correct. I just wanted to clarify.
You
Thank
said
you.
24th or 20th?
April 24?
As you recall, we asked individuals if they could start in 2 weeks, so that is appropriate to go with the date of April 24th.
Isn't that what was discussed in executive session?
Roll call, Ms. Nita?
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes. I move a motion to hire Tatum Dennis for position of road crew worker at $24 an hour with a proposed start date of 4/24/23. If, I'd say, providing he has a clean background check, driver's license abstract, and drug test.
I'll second. Discussion, Mr. Johnson?
None.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, again, I'm disappointed that he was not contacted. I contacted him and was the only one to have done so, and he does have concerns, and he will have to think about this. Again, the information should have been provided to these applicants after, and they could have, you could have easily found out if it was a hard no or a maybe, so we could actually deal with this properly. So I would think in the future, that's the way it should be handled, because it not only respect for these applicants, giving them all the information, but for our time and the residents' time. And again, to support our road department, we need to fill these positions. We went through a period last year where this board refused to fill positions. We had, 2 people on the road crew. So we need to start working on proper administration. So I would kind of ask that we start that.
And I believe, Mr. Evans, that you presented us with 3 people, and we voted for all 3 people when you presented them to us.
That's
So-
what I'm saying.
But no. The thing is,
Yeah,
Ms.
yes.
McKee
Yes, that's
said
fact.
that we're going to hire 3 people
That's
before we
factual.
even started. You can't make those decisions outside
Again.
the meeting.
Again, Mr. Evans, you continue to say things that are not true.
You're on video
And you
saying it.
continue to cause contentions in these board meetings, okay? You
I
need to
point
grow
out the
up,
impropriety.
become professional, and stop saying that we don't support our road crew. We 100% support our road
You
crew.
don't support the equipment.
That's-
You've blocked that numerous times.
Roll call, Mrs. Hanson, Ms. Nita?
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll move on over to, during the organizational meeting on January 3rd, 2023, Trustee Johnson was appointed to the Zoning and Secretary Supervisor as a trustee. Now that the township has hired Nita Hanson as a township administrator, the supervisor appointments need to be modified. Per the request of Trustee Evans, the road crew supervisor can be discussed and taken at the next regular meeting since it was so late. I move to appoint myself as the trustee that would be over the office. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion?
When you say over the office, so you're saying you would want.
Under the organizational side of it,
So
yes.
anybody that works in this office, so you would
Correct.
be the supervisor
Like you're over the-
of zoning, secretarial, and the administrator?
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
And then they would report, she's the supervisor, it'd be like a tier. She would be the supervisor, they would report directly to her, and then she would report directly to the board,
So
myself,
you would be the supervisor over.
the office staff.
Nita?
Oh, as a trustee, Nita would be the supervisor
Okay,
over the staff,
okay,
as a tier. We're doing it as a tier, and then she would report to me as the trustee over the office staff.
got it.
So she would work directly with Laura and John.
Okay, that's what I was.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
Thank you.
I wouldn't be working with them, she would work with them, and then she would report. And then, and she would so I moved to that Nita Hanson be appointed as a supervisor over the office staff. Is there a second?
Well, you had one motion for yourself. We haven't even addressed that.
Discussion.
You guys were just discussing, but can I discuss
Yes,
your
you can, Mr.
original motion?
Go ahead, yes.
That is wholly improper. Again, Ms. McKee, you just want to hold on to control. The administrator reports to the board, not any individual trustee. You're trying to put her reporting to you. That is inappropriate. And we have an administrator job description that we passed as a board. Now, you decided to make changes on your own without board action when we recently advertised this, which that is improper, but the one from February of last year states that the administrator shall administer and supervise all personnel and departmental activities of the township to manage and supervise public works. It's spelled out what her duties are, so she's supposed to be over all employees, including the roads. Now, why it wasn't on this one, it wasn't due to time, it wasn't due to, this came out long after I requested it. So these games need to stop, but we're paying an administrator $130,000 a year, and she needs to do the responsibilities that are outlined.
And that's exactly right. We agree with you.
But she reports to the board,
Correct.
not you.
Well, let me just,
And you're trying to say that she reports to you. That is wholly inappropriate. She should oversee all the employees and the departments, but then she comes to the board and works with all of us. You've got to stop this need for control.
let me just clarify it. She will be over, like you asked, over the roads. That will happen. It just, you sent information at the last minute. She's new here. You don't want to bombard her with all of this stuff at one time.
It's called transition.
Excuse me, Mr. Evans. Exactly. You said the right word. Exactly. Transition. So I am now asking that I would take the role as a trustee under the organization side over the office. And excuse me. And once, if that passes, Miss Hanson or Miss Nita will be reporting to me, okay? Now, I know you asked about the road crew. Mr. Johnson is over the road, so she will report to Mr. Johnson.
That is not how
Yes,
it
it
works.
is. Yes,
the
it is.
administrator reports
Yes, it
to
is.
the board, and if you're
Yes,
talking
it
about
is.
transition, Mr. Johnson has been over the office staff. You have never been over the office
That's
staff.
right.
So we can
That's
all
why
help
we're
with
asking-
transition, just like when John Carlisle did not
Why are you
provide
bringing
any
Mr. Carlisle
transition.
up?
We
What's Mr.
figured it
Carlisle
out.
have to do with it?
We figured
What
it out.
does Mr. Carlisle have to do with
You
Mr. Evans?
want to keep control, and you just said that Johnson's gonna.
I didn't
she's gonna
say
report
gonna.
to Johnson.
I didn't say-
Another decision
I
outside
didn't
this board has
say,
got
I
to
didn't say
stop.
gonna. He is over the road.
And you just said
He
that.
is over the road.
You just said that.
Let me
I'm
make
fine.
this, let me make
Hi.
this simple for you guys. It's a vote of the board. Vote of the board can decide whatever. It's a vote of the board.
You guys
So
want
put it
to
up
keep
and vote.
control.
Doesn't matter,
Miss-
Mark,
Miss
it's a vote
Hanson-
of the board. You heard the auditors tell us, or not the auditor, you heard the prosecutor's office tell us that. I was thinking Austin. Austin saying that.
There's things that this board is doing that they are concerned about.
Well, I'm sure they'll let us know.
Per
They
request
will.
of trustee.
But again,
I move
the
that,
administrator reports to the board.
I move that,
We only moved it, we gotta have a vote.
oh, that's right.
Yes, motion pending,
Okay.
so we gotta have.
Is there a second?
There's
I
already a
second.
We have
second.
discussion.
We had discussion.
Okay, roll call on the motion.
Okay. Ms. McKee,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
No.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Okay. I move that Nita Hanson be appointed as a supervisor over the office staff. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Evans.
Why do we have to appoint her? It's in the job duties on the record. She's automatically that based on these are her duties. You hired her into these duties.
As I understand, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
May I speak?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I apologize
You're
for
fine. No,
not
it's okay.
asking permission. As I understand it, it's just a formality
Correct.
Because originally the board had voted and had determined different areas that the different trustees were sort of managing before the position was filled for an administrator. And so since they had those duties are now transitioning. That's what I understand. It's
Yes,
just a
ma'am.
formality to.
Right, so are we gonna go
to
down
change it
each
from-
one for the economic development, the road, this, when you were hired, this was filled. That's what I don't understand from the get-go, that we're not even addressing like your business cards, there's no authorization for that. There's no, like, this should be handled properly and it's not. And again, you should be reporting to the board. You work for the board. You're not Ms. McKee's personal assistant like Mr. Vance was. You don't report to any one trustee. It's the board, and it should be equal. And that's what I hope. I'm trying to work with you through and that was my hope, that because I'm not getting information. And you've seen it with the resumes. I asked for the resumes, and they weren't provided until I sat down there. You said ask the trustees. They still didn't. So that's why you have the opportunity to work and make this work. But if you're going to report to just one trustee, it's not going to work. That's what I'm saying.
This is not set up to work to one.
I did not understand that to be I did not understand that to be the direction that Ms. McKee was heading with her motion. That I would solely only speak to her or only report to her. I did not
Then what's the
understand
need
that.
for that?
Because I think it's just a division of labor amongst the trustees. So, if there
You
becomes
report
an
to the
issue.
board.
That's exactly right. So when
Right,
she
that's
shows
what I'm
up at the
saying.
meetings,
No.
she will be reporting to the board. And she will meet with you individually. She's already told you that. You've said it. I've heard her stand here and say it.
This
I
is
just have
more
one other
games
question.
of
Yes,
keeping
yes, Ms. Neal.
power, and it makes no sense. Ms. McKee has no experience with the office. Mr. Johnson does. I have more experience on the road, so you're gonna put me back over the roads?
So,
It makes no sense.
The thing about business cards, it would seem to me that's just an office supply.
No, it's not. Office supplies, staples, that's printing. If we're gonna do printing, then I can print.
You
I
need to
think they come
stop.
from Staples.
You need to stop.
I
Anything
think
from,
they come
just
from
do.
Staples.
so then
It's just-
I can print, we have it on record,
Here we
any
go.
kind of maps, any kind of stuff under my authority, correct? Any supplies, handouts?
We're getting a little bit off the topic.
I apologize. I'm
Let's
sorry.
get back
I was
to the
just
topic,
responding to the
which
statement.
is, we're going to roll call that Ms. Nita is appointed supervisor over the office staff. Please roll call, Ms. Nita.
Yes, Ms. McKee,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
No, because it should just be this.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, Mrs. Nita.
Ms. McKee,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you. The time is 4:28.